Now that you know the properties of a parallelogram, we're going to use those geometric properties to do some algebra problems. So we use the geometric property to set up an equation that we can then solve with algebra. So, first one here, up at the top, we have a parallelogram. They tell us that we have a parallelogram. And one of the properties you know about a parallelogram that you just saw was that opposite sides are congruent. So we know these two sides are the same. If you didn't get that written down, go back in your notes and put that down. In a parallelogram, opposite sides are congruent. So we can create an equation like this. 17 is equal to x plus 3. Because we know these two sides are congruent, we can set them equal to each other. Then it just becomes a nice easy algebra problem. Minus 3 and minus 3 to both sides. And you get x is equal to 14. So, because opposite sides are congruent, you should be able to set up another equation here with the top and the bottom side. I'll let you do that one to solve for y, so you can pause the video and do that. Then hit play and we'll do the next example. So, on number 2, you can again use the same property, opposite sides are congruent, to make an equation between these two. I don't think you need me to do that one again, so you can do that one on your own. I want to talk about the other two pieces of information here. Something else we know about parallelograms that you saw in the animations is that opposite angles are also congruent. If you didn't get that sentence, go back and write it now. In a parallelogram, opposite angles are congruent. So here we can make an equation. 3b is opposite the 111 degrees, so we know those two must be equal. Divide by 3 on both sides. Just solve our algebra problem now. And b is equal to, I believe it is 37 if you divide those. All right, so again, we're using a geometry property to create an algebra problem. We know that opposite angles are congruent, so we can make an equation. All right, number 3 is very similar. It starts out similar at least. We know opposite angles are congruent, so you can make an equation with this one and that one. Those are opposite angles. You can make an equation. I'll let you do that one. That one's not too hard. So you can pause the video and do that, then hit play to see the next part that's a little bit more tricky. All right, the next part. We again want to use opposite angles are congruent because we have an angle here. So we know this is congruent to this one over here, but we don't know what that is. So we start with v minus 3 is equal to, but we don't know what the opposite angle is. So we have to use another geometric property. Well, we know in a quadrilateral, this has 4 sides, all the angles have to add up to be 360. Okay? We learned that last time. So, we're going to use that fact. Well, we know this angle here is 124. That means over here, this must also be 124. And if we add all these angles up, they have to make 360. So I'm going to start subtracting them off. So 124 and 124 makes 248. So we're going to subtract those two. That leaves us with 112 degrees. But that is left over for these two angles. So if each of them add up to be 112, that means each of them must be 56 degrees. So we know each of these is 56 degrees using the properties of a quadrilateral. Well, that finishes our equation. We needed to know what this opposite angle was for our equation, so we now know this is 56 degrees. Now we can finish our algebra problem. So add 3, V must be equal to 59. So there we had to use two geometric properties to finish our algebra problem. All right, one more here. So we had one more property for parallelograms, and that is that the diagonals cut each other in half. They bisect each other. All right, so if you didn't get that one written down, go back in your notes and fix it. Diagonals of a parallelogram bisect each other. So that means this part of the diagonal, all right, this side right here, is equal to this side over here. They're the same. And if they're the same, we can make an equation. So our equation is t plus 5 is equal to 19. Now again, we can do that because the geometric property says the diagonals of a parallelogram bisect each other. And then the algebra is quite easy here. Minus 5 minus 5. T is equal to 14. All right, the main thing here is applying the geometric property that diagonals bisect each other. All right, do this last equation here for number 4, and then try the next slide as well. There's 4 problems for you to try there. Good luck.